Welcome to the business end. Our guest today is someone whose career has been fought more than played, a 17-year professional in one of rugby's most demanding positions, and a man who's lived the game at pretty much every level it offers. Neil Clark grew up in Cornwall, came through Helston RFC, and made his first senior appearance for Exeter on the 9th of October 1999, the day after his 18th birthday, and the very first season the club wore the Chiefs badge. I know because I was alongside him that day, one of the youngest forwards ever to play in the second tier of English rugby. From there, a career that almost reads like a test case in how much a body and a mind can absorb. 4 years at Exeter, I moved to Bristol in 2003, where he scored the try that sent the club back to the Premiership. A snapped ACL in pre-season 2006, released during rehab. A short spell at the Cornish All Blacks to find his way back in, then cover for Liam Mears at Bath during the 2007 World Cup. A return to Exeter in 2008, a broken ankle that ended one season. A Players' Player of the Season award in the next as the Chiefs won the championship and went up to the Premiership for the first time in their history. 3 Premiership seasons, 150th appearance and an England squad call-up. Then France on the Aix, a top 14, until a neck injury in November 2014 ended his career at the age of 33. Since then, Neil has spoken publicly and with real honesty about what came after the final whistle, the chronic pain, the mental toll, and the long work of finding a life on the other side of the sport. He featured in the BBC's Rugby on Trial, and his story has helped a lot of other players, past and present, feel less alone in theirs. Neil, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Anytime, boys. Thank you for having me.
Neil, welcome.
Thank you.
Let's get into it. Neil, take us back to the 9th of October 1999. Liam mentioned it there. Exeter are playing Oral. You're 18 years old, a Cornish lad, a year out of school, stepping into to a senior shirt in the first season at the club. Even before Exeter was called the Chiefs, the pressure that day wasn't just from the crowd or the scoreline. It was a step up in itself. What do you remember about that environment actually demanding of you that afternoon and what it forgave?
I think anything when it comes to, as you boys know, when it comes to big, opportunities, that's what's put in front of you. We were told throughout our whole careers, if somebody gives you a go, you got to take it. I felt that was an opportunity, but I was good enough to play at that level. Ian was obviously there, and I think after getting a smack in the face for being a bit cheeky, I realised I probably wasn't at that level just yet. But these are the things that you learn from, and I think they call it experience in the front row. But yeah, I suppose for me I was really fortunate because yes, I was young, but equally, players like Mooney, Rob Baxter, Gary Willis, all these big hard men. I was sort of, rubbing shoulders with them and bringing things around in the changing room. And so for me, they made it a lot easier. And I'm sure, as you guys know, you've played enough rugby at, the highest level. Sometimes when you're on the bench, that can be tough. You're trying to take in the atmosphere. 9 times out of 10, where we first were, it was you couldn't walk on the floor because you'd stink in a speedway track. But yeah, it was an interesting time. Something that I'll always remember, and I think everybody will. But yeah, I felt like I was probably shitting myself. Is probably the easiest way to say it. But yeah, as soon as you get on the pitch, your first line out, got a smack in the face and 6 stitches. Yeah, I felt straight in the groove.
Felt straight at home.
Yeah, let the rugby career start.
Yeah, and for those who knew Exeter in those days, the county ground was just a mud bath, so there was no room for any expansive rugby. It was just like a forwards game, hey, Neil?
Yeah,
so
well, that was the thing. It's the old, when you hear the old spit and sawdust, but some of the things we used to call them the old alakadoos. And I remember they used to tell us the stories when it used to be like a racetrack with the dogs. And they used to go in and steal pasties from the changing room and feed them to the dogs, and then go put money on them. But I mean, in a way, that's sort of, even though that's where Tony Robert's great. The club have always had that history, and as you even see, and obviously being a part of that, but you don't step much beyond Tony Road, but then obviously it's the Baxters, it's John, Richie, Rob, all the family. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I enjoyed so much being at Exeter. As you guys know, especially the way that the game is moving on, there's not many die-hard family names attached, to a prestigious facility like that. So, you're going to give the Baxters really and Tony sort of credit for what they've built.
So just going back to that, Neil, I mean, what Rob was captain, I think, that day. Rob was captain of Exeter. What was Rob Baxter like as a leader when he was playing?
Again, this is the thing you sort of were just touched on there. His words have always rub off on you. Yeah, I think I remember overthrowing him at a line out once, and it was basically it was a really shit jump, and he blamed me. I think I said his legs were like 10 poles. I said maybe do a few more squats, and that went down too well.
What did you get picked? Did you get picked the next game, Neil?
Nah, funny enough, I think that was just before I left for Bristol. Yeah, there was the hooker. The only reason why I got called back is because there was a hooker crisis. I'm sure we'll probably allude to it, or move on to it. But what Rob did for me, post and my career. Yeah, I owe my life probably Rob in a sense. Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously move on to that point, but yeah, when I wasn't very well, it was Rob, Tony that reached out with the club, and yeah, they looked after me. Yeah, he's an inspirational man. He's a lovely family man. This has just popped up. I remember when I did my testimonial and he put a story. You might have even been on the bus. I was 18 and it was all the, you have to do obviously your initiations. Without having the shit kicked out of me with a load of seatbelts. I was drinking, I think it was like Old Speckled Hen, and I drank about 7 or 8 of them. I couldn't drink anymore. And Rob turned around and he actually put this in my testimonial brochure. He said he's never seen anything like this, like even to this day. And I went, I can't drink anymore. Rob handed me a full bottle, 2-litre bottle of full fat Coke. And I necked the whole thing. I don't know how. And it's all documented as well. So this isn't made up. And then I just remember having to sprint down to the toilet. And as we said, Mooney will remember this. I don't know how, but there was always like 10 old boys that always managed to get to the front of the bus. They come to every game. It just so happened one of them was having a piss. So I've just spewed 2 litres of Coke, 8 bottles of Speckled Hen all over his suit.
I can't remember that.
No.
I can't remember. Did it go down well? I doubt it went down well, obviously. So,
well, it came up well.
Yeah. So, going back now to 2007, Neil, and you blew your ACL, and you were still, whilst you're still at the club, they released you. Okay, so
yeah, yeah, sure. So I was at Bristol doing, I was playing well. So again, good friends. I have a lot to him, like for my career. You guys will know who he is, Mark Regan. And, it's a compliment when someone of Mark Regan's caliber calls you a liability. So I couldn't have been that bad. Yeah, so he was doing a lot with me because I was losing my head a lot and fighting a lot. He did a lot with me. He spent a lot of time with me, and I have a lot to running. And it was going well. I was playing really well, and we were just about to start the Premiership season, and it was going to be a toss-up between me and Ronnie playing against Newcastle, I think it was. I came off the bench, and I wasn't even supposed to be on the bench. We were playing like Neath or something. They were like just going for like 10 minutes. Yeah, and I stepped on the wing. Not sure why Hooker was on the wing. Yeah, just went over, snapped my ACL, did my medial, standard sort of drills, went through all of the rehabilitation. And the club were really putting some heat, trying to get me back for this Quins game. I think it was like 5 months in. And basically, I was doing, shit I shouldn't have been doing. But you boys know what it's like. They tell you to do it. You just get your head down and you do it. And unfortunately, I did it again. Had a contract on the table, ready to sign a new deal. My wife at the time was pregnant with our first, so she wasn't working. We just bought our house. Hilly was like, "You're the future of this club, don't worry." Next thing you know, I've got no contract. My wife's just about to give birth. I've blown my knee out twice, and back then it was like, you do it twice, you're done. And then Bristol were just really, really good with me, and then pretty much didn't refuse to do my second surgery. So Jonathan Webb, the old England fullback, who was obviously, he's a surgeon, and he did my second surgery for free. And then Paul Hull, who's again, great guy, owe a lot to him at Bristol. And his wife, Donna, was a physio. And she just set up her own clinic alongside Webby. And they rehabbed me for free. And so I then managed to go back to that. I was going to quit. And then my phone rang and it was Rob. And he goes, "The little birdie tells me you're going to hang your boots up." And I said, "Rob, I've had enough." He said, "Look, can you get some rugby?" I said, "I don't know. I need to have a little think." Next thing you know, as if by a miracle, Frank Butler, who was our old England YDO, and he's like Cornish guy, brought me and Hobbo up, and top man. He was at Bath at the time. And he rang and said, "Look, the word on the street is you need a bit of rugby." So I went up to Bath and they finished off my rehab, and that was brilliant. They were so good with me, and I got on really well with the Aussie guy. Oh shit, what's his name? The forwards coach. He was brilliant, and I got on really well with him. And then I started to just play the second team games, and I was doing well. And then I think it was Flats turned around, and again, as we were touching on earlier, sometimes you don't fit in with some coaches. 9 times out of 10, if you're a forward, you're probably not going to get on with a backs coach. I didn't really get on with Steve Meehan. I think he thought I was a bit of a feisty prick. And but Bath wanted to keep me. Well, I'd agreed to go back to Exeter. So then I got put on loan just to get some game time. I went down to being a Cornish boy anyway. Went and played down at the All Blacks. And it just so happened that year they were in the championship. We actually, so I was playing against Saints. That was the year Saints were in the championship. Obviously, Exeter were in it. And so I managed to get some rugby under my belt, went back. Had really screwed my ankle up. That was a bad one. And then, a year later, played every game, won player of the year. Going into the Prem. And that was bittersweet because it just happened to be at the Memorial Stadium. And instead of shaking the owner's hand, I stuck my fingers up it.
So, Neil, go back to 2007. Who from Bristol told you? Who told you that they're going to release you from your contract?
Oh, well, this is the interesting thing, and I know they won't mind me mentioning it. So there was a lot going on, the dynamics of the game and everything, funding and all of this. And I think they were starting to change they were changing some shit around. There was a guy that we had come in, Corin Palmer, who was doing some stuff at the time with like Premier Rugby and stuff. Corin was all right, but he was a bit more of a yes man. And this is the joys that I'm not in rugby anymore. I don't give a shit. And so basically, so Martin Haag, who's the good mate, and we were, I think, second in the Prem at the time. And we were doing so well with the line-out scrums. We were doing well. So I got the sack. Hagee got the sack. Phil Nelson, I think. Anyway, there was the list. There was about 7 or 8 players. And there was no fucking around. It was literally, call your name out. That's it, done. No one had any idea. And I remember Hagee walked in, and him and Hilly came in the same car. They lived next to each other in Bath. They played at Bath together, England together. And they were like, "Yeah, mate, we'll let you go." Literally, and I remember talking to Hagee about on the desk, pulled everything off, and that was it. And I was a very similar one. And me being me, they were like, "Oh, we're going to throw you a lunch just to say thanks for all your help." And I told them to F off and walk home.
So, I mean, how obviously made you feel like angry, but what did it teach you about where you stood inside a professional setup, or what did it teach you about leadership, the way that you were treated?
I think that's probably one of the best things, because as you guys know, it's like even finishing rugby, some of these life lessons that you learn, obviously you have to experience them. And I think what that taught me is you can be at the top of the game and you can be replaced pretty bloody quickly. And I think towards, not necessarily towards the end of my career, because I was actually playing well, but you are on a conveyor belt. It's as simple as that. You can be replaced. You're only as good as your last game. All these little, these little one-liners, but they're so true. But I think what that taught me, because quite cocky, doing all right, nice car, just bought a house, things are looking good, talking about, next thing you know, you're done. And that really does bring you back down to reality very, very quickly.
And
I think that's probably what it taught me. It taught me that you got to take your opportunities in life, and also they can be taken away just as quick.
What would your tips be to a younger player who's been let go in the same fashion?
I've had these conversations actually. I mean, you guys know sometimes it's really difficult when people come in and say, "Oh, you guys, you should sit down, talk to the youngsters." I'm like, no one's going to fucking listen. We're all the same. They'll be like, when are these old farts going to bugger off so I can go to Wagamama's, or I want to play Call of Duty? They won't listen. Or maybe that was just me. You'll always get one or two, but I mean, I think the thing that I would say to anybody now is you've got to put yourself first. You've got to remember that this is a business and that you are replaceable. You're just a commodity. I think there's such a big emphasis around the game now that you're part of a family. That's only fine when it works for them. If you're surplus to requirement, you're gone. If someone's better, like I was halfway through my testimonial year. I had Luke Cam and Dickie snapping at my heels. My shoulders are hanging on for dear life. And I've been offered a 3-year deal to go to the top 14. Because he's coming through, they were going to reduce my salary because I was making that up on the testimonial. And I'm like, I've just scored the best try of my life against Leinster in the Heineken Cup. I'm doing all right here. And they went, no, that was to benefit the club, which I understand. It was a business decision. They could save money. They saw where they could do it. And I think for me, it was when I speak to a couple of boys. So I remember when Dan Frost went to Bath, I was like, mate, you're really only going to get your worth if you go somewhere. If you come up through these clubs from a youngster on the academy contracts, so you're only really going to get your worth if you move on. And so that's what I sort of said to Frosty. I was like, go there, enjoy yourself, be yourself, but just remember, it can finish tomorrow, and don't be afraid to put yourself first.
There's a lag on. Who delivered the news at Bristol? Was it the manager? Was it the head coach? And were there any warning signs this was going to happen, or was it just completely out of blue?
No, absolutely no idea. And like I said, when you speak to some of the other players, they were in exactly the same boat. I mean, I was injured. You could probably sort of see that in a way. Like I'd just done another bad injury. They brought somebody in on loan. Like players, like coaches, like Hagee. Like, this is the best season Bristol have had, and there was no real explanation for it. And it was so Corin. I can't remember if Hilly was sat there as well. It was definitely Corin, and it was just the most unprofessional thing I've ever. Just coming here. Don't worry about sitting down. This ain't going to take long. Yeah, we're letting you go. Okay.
I shouldn't laugh, Neil, but I mean, it's just so.
No, please do.
It's so bad. I mean, that was we had those sort of conversations back in the mid-90s, and it's just as bad, it's just as bad as then, but I suppose the lesson you learn from that is, is concentrate on yourself. It's a business, as you say.
I think sometimes the problem is I was definitely guilty of that for the second stint when we, Rob had built this culture. I mean, when you finish, I actually had to say that I did a lot of therapy and stuff like that. We were more like a group of mates. We had such a tight bond, and we did everything together. And I even actually had to say to my ex-wife now, I even said, look, do you know what? I'm really sorry. I think I was a bit selfish. We were encouraged just every minute of the day. Go and play golf together. Go for lunch together. Go do this together. Go to the pub. Stay together. Stay tight. Stay as a unit. And I get that. And it really did benefit us. But I think sometimes, like we said, if you move on from that game, lads aren't there now.
Yeah, and that's the danger, Neil, isn't it? You lose that peer group without anything else without any...
So I just want to pick up, Neil, there on a couple of points that you made there. So, you know, after you did your ACL at against Neath, and then you mentioned there was a renegotiation or a diktat in terms of your testimonial, making up your salary getting reduced, and the testimonial making the difference. Were these things not covered in your contract, or were they overwritten in your contract? Did you have somebody advocating for you? How did this how were you let go so quickly after the ACL injury?
If I'm honest with you, I don't really understand it. And I mean, I knew that like Hagee, all the boys were in contract. And I know because John Brain came in and we were all taking the piss because it was like Hilly's giving a job to his mate. Yeah, Brain was a great guy. But it's, I don't know, because I'm sure Hagee, you know, he was still, I've seen this done at any club. Whereas you can have a total of six months being injured, and then you trigger a clause, and so in your contract, so you can be released. So if clubs are actually trying to look to get rid of you, what they started to do, because I always used to think, right, okay, ACL 6 months, whereas not really, it's 9 months to a year. What they started to do, hamstring 1 week, concussion 2 days. And they started accumulating it all, going, actual fact, you've had all these injuries here, so that's taken you over that 6 months. So off you pop. That happened.
Wow. And did you have anyone?
And so,
did you have anyone advocating for you? Did you have an agent?
I mean, we all had agents. Yeah, we all had agents, and I mean, it's all fine and dandy, innit, when they send you a copy of Jerry Maguire through the post when you're doing all right for your birthday. But when you retire with a broken neck, brain damage, move your family back from France, and they don't even pick up the fucking phone. So I think that pretty much sums up an agent. Any of you an agent?
No.
The most interesting thing is they do a job, you know, and I can't sit there and say that I haven't had my current agent at the time doing me a good job. But ultimately, again, it's what is their role, really? We just assume that they're gonna look after us. They're gonna do these things. I had a phone call from my agent. So I had emergency surgery on my face, and then I had 2 surgeries on my neck. And I think it was after my first surgery that they were like, that's it. You're a G3. Obviously in France, you have the 3 levels on your neck. And so mine was the G3. It was done. We got to operate now for quality of life. I pushed my C5 through my cord. It was just unbelievable. And I'm lying in the bed and I get a phone call from my agent. I can mention Jamie Robinson, and he was at Toulon at the time. So he got injured with his back. They just released him on the spot. There's no 6 months. In France, it's if you're done, you're done. And so he was gone. Now, my agent had rang me and gone, look, mate, just to let you know, I think I had about 14, 15 months left on my contract. And he goes, mate, just to let you know, that could be you getting your bags packed and going back to the UK in a month or so. I'm like, what? I've literally just, come off the game from La Rochelle, rushed into emergency surgery. And now I'm sitting there going, I'm going to lose my house, my car. I've got my kids and my wife. What the hell am I going to do? And fortunately for me, so I mean, not to get too, moving away from it, that was my agent. And that was his role. That's all I heard from him. He literally, that was it. Put the phone down, done. There was no, mate, don't worry, I've got your back. We're going to move you forward. We're going to make sure everything's all right. Let me give the club a ring. Let me see if I can do anything. Ironically, about 20 seconds after that phone call, Gregory DeMarco, who was our team manager, and he was lovely. And he just rang me to see if I was okay. And he just said, look, I've spoken to Christoph, and Christoph Urios is a fantastic man. And I owe a lot to him as well. And he just said, look, Christoph, you're a big part of the team. Don't worry about anything. We got your back. And I'm like, what? They paid my whole salary. They even gave me the bonus when we lost to Toulouse, I think, in the semi-final. Let me keep my house, and we stayed there a whole year. Gave me the car. And all he said to me, and now when you finish, you realize how important this is. He was like, you can use all the facilities, you can do what you want, your own time is your own. But he said, you have to come to the players' lunch every Friday and be at every home game.
Mm.
And what that did for me mentally, being around the boys, yeah, he's a great man. And, you know, I'm so grateful for that. So to answer your question, agents, I believe they're there for a service and they can do a good job. But I believe when the shit hits the fan, or say you've got two props and he's going to get one of you into a club, who's he going to do? The one that he can get the most money for. He's not going to give a shit about the guy that's got the missus and the kids at home and this other lad's 18 and he'd be all right. No, he's going to get the money to line his pocket. I think if things like this are probably highlighted before we start our careers, I think there'd be a much greater level of acceptance.
Actually, Neil, you got made like an amazing point, which is basically the rules of the game in rugby aren't how they're often portrayed. It's a dog eat dog business, and you know, talk about loyalty and all those things, and there is that there. But the rules of the game are that if you get injured or you don't perform, you're vulnerable.
That's it.
And and then the rules of the game are that with the agents are that they place you at a club, and if they go for wherever the sale is. I mean, I'm not saying they're all like that. I mean, because I would have hoped that you have learned from their experiences. I mean, we've spoken to a few of them, and they'll bring that in. But you know, you can't escape the commercial reality of the game that you play in. If an agent's dealing with two players and they want to put one into a club because they're better suited to the club, they're going to do it, and they're going to take the money. But they need to deliver the message with perhaps a bit more empathy than leave you, you know, lying on a hospital bed somewhere in France.
Yeah, and it was a really harsh reality. Like 1 minute you're playing in the top 14 against the champs, to really paralysing yourself, ultimately getting yourself a brain injury. You've lost your job, you've lost your identity. Now you've got to provide for your family. You're like, shit, I
Yeah,
really know.
yeah,
And I could really have done with help from my agent, if I'm honest. I didn't even hear from him.
No.
yeah, not
Well,
good.
that's not right. But you also, the flip side of that, you know, and I think there's rules, there's contracts, there's the letter of the wording on those papers, and then there's the personal element. And I had the privilege of working with Christoph at CAS many years ago, and
I was going to ask you
and I
that.
concur with you. That was exactly my
Yeah.
read on the man. Great man, a good thinker of the game, hard working, hard man, but had great empathy and was, you know, a typical team player, you know. So if you were in the group, you were in the group. So I'm so pleased to hear he was there for you when you'd hurt your neck.
Yeah, honestly, the whole club, you know, it's one of the smaller clubs. We were doing well at the time, but yeah, I mean, I couldn't say, you know, great thank you or gratitude that I would have towards them, and also for me, like, you know, I'm pointing there because it's right there. It's huge.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's move on. So let's go back to your time at the Cornish All Blacks, and then on to 3 months of cover for Lee Mayers at Bath during the '07 World Cup, and then back to Exeter through Rob Baxter. You know, you were rebuilding your career in the national leagues, not in the Premiership at that point. And when you look back at that 18-month stretch, what was the stand-in that you were holding yourself to get back up the ladder?
I think the biggest thing with that was just having belief in your ability, because when you go, and I was like close, and it was, you know, for me, Ronnie was in the World Cup squad. I was right on his tail, and he was like, not long, your time, and all this. So for that just to disappear, I had no one, although, and that was it. I didn't think I was ever going to play rugby again. And so, you know, I think once I pulled myself out of that and I got a little bit of the, use the term, you in it, I sort of used that a bit as fuel. Training myself, got my own gym membership. Again, Twigsy, Paddy that were at the club, they knew me for years. He was giving me programs on the fly. and I did it on my own. And, you know, I'm sure as you boys know, and you know, you can have some dark days, you know, and everybody thinks when it's all sunshine and rainbows, they don't see you go in at dark, come out at dark, the pain, you know, the rehabilitation, the constant, you know, massage needle, somebody gets an elbow in your bloody ITV band, you know, it's not easy. So I think, you know, from that point of view, I learned probably to be a lot more resilient. Probably it was a little bit more understanding, definitely. But then it was very much, well, I'm just going to go out, and that's probably a little bit the way I played. It was, I'm going to go and give it everything I've got. If I fuck it up or something breaks, so be it.
There's a lot of mental fortitude there.
I think that's what that taught me.
Yeah,
A
loads.
lot of mental fortitude. And it is, I mean, just to reiterate your point, I mean, it is so isolated when you're injured, and especially with a, you know, the more serious injuries as you had there. And did you obviously you wanted to get back? Did that resilience build over that period of time? Was it something you'd made a decision early on in that injury journey, you know, that you were going to go hell for leather to get back? Just can you dig a little bit deeper into, you know, that particular journey?
I think I don't know. I mean, maybe, you know, had a bit of a troublesome upbringing, and it was one of those fight or flight. You know, I'm fighting for my dinner. You know, parents, you know, mum's not there, dad's not there. I mean, we didn't know where they were. No, it's all good. Everything's great now. But what that does teach you is, me and my brother, you know, we don't do this. No one else is. And so I think, in a way, I was a bit like, look, the only way this is going to happen is if I make it happen. And how am I going to do that? So, yeah, I suppose for me, I just rolled the sleeves up and just went for it.
And do you think that made you a better player, Neil? Because all the success came afterwards, that little knockback.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was bloody gut-wrenching to go from that point and that close to basically back down. I don't want to say the bottom, because I would never want to insult, you know, any of the lower leagues, because, you know, it's a fantastic championship or national. Was it National One back then?
I think they were National One, yeah.
Yeah. It's a fantastic league, and, you know, they've produced some amazing players throughout the year. And so, you know, I'll never take anything from that. As you boys know, you always want to play at the highest level. And so to have to step back after being up there, I wouldn't say I was ever like, oh, I'm too good to be here. It was like, right, come on, let's get in, and then let's just try and get back up there. And some people wrote me off and said, no, you're not going to do it. But then I've had most of that in my life. Too angry, too small, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then you did it, which fair play to you. And we'll talk about that next, like with Exeter, 2009, 2010. First time in the history they get promoted. Talk us through that. What was being said in the changing room that people outside didn't see, and what standards did Rob hold to other directors of rugby didn't have?
This one is actually a good one. We were obviously building up to it. When we actually got to the final, we got on the coach, and oh my God, did it rain. And obviously, as a hooker, I'm looking at the coach window going, for fuck's sake, I've got to throw the ball in on this. And then I think Rob started like rubbing his hands. He's like old school second row. I'm like, wow, please just stop raining. And he was like, right. But then this is where it got really interesting. So we're in the changing room. Rob comes in, and we didn't find this out. I didn't hear it till like a couple of years later. And so he comes in, and kicks the floor, and he's fucking swearing and everything. He's like, right, lads, everybody in. And we're all stood there, like, huddling up. And it's probably an hour before kickoff. He went, I've just been round the back there, and I've seen these bastards bringing in crates of champagne and putting it in the changing room already, like to celebrate now. And he actually said he looked at me, and I was like, you motherfucker. And I think we went out there, and I think we had a fight in one of the first scrums, and like just set the tone. But I didn't realise he made it up.
Did you? I was going to say he made it up.
Yeah,
I was going to.
Yeah, we were all sat there once, and then he just turned around and went, yeah. He said that was bullshit.
What do you think he told you first, Neil?
Rob
to light the
Bell.
fuse paper?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, not guilty. Me and Rob always had a really good understanding with that, and it was actually an interesting story with that one. So it would always be like, set the tone, do this, do this. So when we first got up into the Prem, he pulled me aside and was like, "Look, we gotta earn respect in this league, you know." And it was like, you're gonna have to go out there and set the tone. And I'm sort of looking at it as if say, you basically telling me you want me to punch someone in the face. And so genuinely, that is what I did. And so I'd go out most times, first scrum, start a fight. And then I think after like the first year, there was like, some of the supporters were like, "Oh, we're taking bets how long it's going to take." And then I remember we did it against Leicester, and then big James Phillips come in. It's all kicking off. Boris Stankovic, he's like throat punched him, and it's like he's got this big dirty Bristolian accent. He's like, "Oh," and, before someone's going to die on the side of the pitch. But the reality of that is there's a shelf life to it. We got away with it, and I remember Rob sat me down and he goes, "Look, mate, we're going to have to knock this on the head now. They're bringing the cameras in," and I went, "Not sure what else I can really offer, to be honest." And so I was out with shoulder surgery, and we were playing Connaught in the pre-season, and he basically just said, "Look, team and get 20 minutes under your belt." I think we were playing Northampton a couple of weeks later or something like that. And he was like, "Right, just remember now, knock it on the head." And they'd signed, is it like Reineker, the South African hooker? He's now, funnily enough, we still sort of chat, but he's like in the UFC with like Bismarck du Plessis or something like that. And we always had a little bit of a thing at Quinn's. Oh, sorry, when he was at Sarries, first scrum, here we go. Adrian Harris, our doctor, who's like the head of the RD&E, I've elbowed him in the face to go back in, thinking it's the pre-season game. I'm just going to get a slap on the wrist here. Rob literally dragged me off the pitch, sat me down, shouted at me, and then I think he put the water boy back on instead of me. And yeah, I didn't play. I did not play. I couldn't get anywhere near that team for, I think it was like 6 weeks. And it wasn't Rob's fault. He basically said, "Look, fuck it. Shit's changed."
Yeah.
And he was like, "We can't do it anymore." And I was like, "Oh, I think now's the time for me to bugger off to France."
Well, you can still do it.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much what I did. Yeah, no, well, Christoph, I think he called me crazy roast beef. But yeah, no, it's the game's evolved a lot, and to be fair, there was like Jens, Dickie was right behind me. Christy Whitehead was playing well, Sile Cops. Any one of us could have played. It got to the point where me and Christy, if he'd start or I'd start, and it would be I'd get 25 or 30, we'd just mixing it around. We had a sport of riches, really. Back then, it wasn't. We had some good players come the end. We had quite a good group. So Rob was not afraid to just go, "No, that's it. I told you." And so, like the naughty schoolboy, I don't think I played for like 6 weeks.
Yeah, fair play.
But yeah, he commands a lot of respect. He drives standards. Like I said, I could not give any more praise to the man for being, I suppose, mostly, part of my career, but also giving me that opportunity to come back as well.
Yeah.
And along with Pete Jewett, like the old England 21 coach, it was a big decision for them to try and re-sign me because it was a gamble. But fortunately, I suppose for the club and for myself, it was something that paid off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've spoken about this a little bit earlier, but take us back to Onyx, November 2014, neck injury, a 17-year professional career closes, not on your terms. You were being very honest in the rugby paper about the body and the pain you walked away with. Take us back to that window around retirement itself before the public story was written. What was the system's response, the clubs, the leagues, the games in the weeks and months that followed, and what was offered to you and what quietly wasn't?
Well, I think first and foremost, like sort of touched on it, the club itself, Christoph and the team, and the president of the club, as you know, being in France, they can either be very, very awkward to work with or very, very supportive, and they were just amazing. They were just amazing with me. They gave me everything I needed, every ounce of support. Obviously, that does come to an end, and so, as you know, over in France, it's very different. You have the insurance over there, which is math. They have Proval, which is the equivalent to the RPA over in the English plan. The way that they looked after me, and I know every story is different, but for me personally, you know, the way that the French system looked after me and supported me and my family was just phenomenal. The healthcare had everything I needed. Coming back to the UK, very, very, very different story. Very, very different story. I think I felt this like sense of entitlement that, you know, someone was going to look after me. And I think now the realization actually kicks in, but it's just what it is. A business. And we've done what we can for you off your job. Hope you're all right. Thanks for your service, kind of thing. But yeah, I get anything back in the UK. I couldn't get private healthcare cover because I'd had so many pre-existing injuries. It's really difficult trying to support with like pain clinics and things. They would only do certain things. They wouldn't touch my neck. I went to see one of the surgeons here, and he was great, like Dr. Hutton. He thought one of my brackets might have broken. I was in so much pain. And yeah, sure enough, he spec scan. He said, look, what we're looking for is like a little red dot. And then we'll just go in, tied it up, and hopefully that'll, you know, cure all your nerve pain. And yeah, sure enough, it came back and he said it was like something out of a cricket field and it was red, 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 red. And he went, I can't touch it up. He said, I can actually kill you. And so I was very limited to what I could do. And then I think, you know, without going too far, prescription drugs, recreational drugs, and a boatload of alcohol. And that was really the only way, one, I could numb any kind of pain that I had. And also, it's difficult when you go from being so active. I couldn't even go to the gym, you know, I couldn't do anything. And there were times where I was lying in bed, I couldn't move. And like tiniest little movement where I had very minimal fluid on my cord. It would be like a cattle grid, like it'd be like an electric shock. And I was like, you know, my wife at the time, I'd be like lying in bed and I'd be pissing in a Sprite bottle. I couldn't move. And then when I could move, and then it was like, oh, okay, come on, let's go and play golf. Or I'd go on a corporate do and then piss and make a prick of myself. And then you go back to square one again. And I think this went on for probably 2 years. Yeah, it got bad. And then the wife left. And yeah, I just couldn't see any point. I was taking, you know, a mixture of Lyrica, tramadol. I made myself allergic to codeine. I took that much of it. And yeah, and like I said, if it wasn't for the fact I think I was weighing in at about 18.5 stone and I was staying in an old traditional house, top of the banister, maybe not been as frail, I probably wouldn't be here. Fortunately, that did snap. And I suppose when I took an overdose, when they pumped my stomach, they said there was enough in there to kill a baby rhino. Yeah, and they said my tolerance for painkillers was just ridiculous. And it was, looking back at it now, it's you've also been there. You've all popped a couple of trammies or, you know, a couple of Zopiclone before bed, you know, before getting some sleep before bed. I think there is, especially our older generation, like the way that the boys are holding on, like with their body, there's still a lot going on, you know. And I mean, touch wood. I mean, I've got a little bit of tingling in here now at the moment, but I'm okay. But I haven't taken a painkiller other than paracetamol and brufen, occasional naproxen if I have a bit of a flare up. But yeah, I haven't taken like serious, you know, painkiller in like 4 years now, 5 years.
Just to sort of follow up on that. So is the pain has subsided now, or you've just learned to live with it? Or?
No, sorry, Fitzy. You know what? If we'd had this podcast probably 6 weeks ago, I'd say I'm probably the best shape I've been in. I can train. I have a good day and a bad day. It's as simple as that. Went to Tenerife for a few days of sunshine and slipped off a bloody curb, and I blew my back out. and then it went all the way into my neck, and I nearly didn't fly home. And then I literally I was in a lot of grief for like 4 or 5 weeks. So I've just started after again. And this is the other thing, you're going to pay for the chiropractor, pay for your massage, pay for your rehabilitation. We used to get that, as you boys know, you just bang on the door and say, I can ask
Yeah.
for physio, please. And that's the biggest thing for a lot of the retired boys. They're not even in a position where they can actually afford the treatment. So yeah, but I mean, apart from that, in all honesty, I was doing really well for about a good 2 years. And then, yeah, ironically, I don't know where it came from. I just fell off a curb.
Yeah.
But it's nothing like it was. Nothing like it.
So Neil, talking about like retirement, do you think, you've talked about it saying that, it's the hardest chapter in your career as being actual retirement and dealing with it. Is that because of the pain, or is it because of the loss of the systems, or is it both?
I think that's probably the best question you could ask, because this is probably the most honest answer that you can give. I don't think anything prepares you for retirement. I've always wanted to have finished at like the highest level. I didn't want to go down the levels. I'd probably have another year, 2 years max. And they were like, "Oh, you're going to have to retire at some point. You had a good career." Nothing prepares you for that. They're still in this state. It doesn't matter what they do. It's never going to prepare you. Everyone's going to be different how they deal with it. Some people go into coaching. You boys will know, there's some lads that go super, super fit. Some lads go super, super fat. I don't think anything can prepare you. But to answer that question, I think it probably would be an idea if they actually did try and do something for the players. And I do believe that there isn't enough. There is absolutely nothing. I don't believe there is. We talk about the RPA. I get a text message. I think I had one the other day, and I haven't heard from them in about 3 years, 4 years. And they'll say, "Yeah, but you're not part of the system anymore." Okay. Don't send me this about brain damage then.
On that, Neil, because it's a really important question. Like me and Fitzy have discussed this with people before, and like, who do you think the onus of that responsibility is to look after players that's retired? What club or what governing body, or who should look after them, and why? Because like some owners will say, "Yeah, but we paid them well," and then, but I think there's a deeper meaning behind it. I'd just like to get your views on that.
That system we had in France, Proval, the GMF, that insurance policy, I don't know anybody that didn't get supported by that. And it's never going to, set you up for life. But I could sit here now and I would have absolutely no problem right now with throwing them under a bus. RPA, they had the one which was Towergate. And I think I know off the top of my head, 6, 8 players, serious career enders. Nah, you're not insured. Now, the RPA are actually the ones that encourage us to take that policy in case this happens. And not one of them have been paid out. Now, they'd probably come back and argue and say, "Oh, yeah, well, we have." Most of the lads I know didn't get it. So you could take Hobbo, for example. He retires with pretty much a broken neck, a couple of discs removed out of his neck. That's it. He's retired. Now, he's a prop at international level, and you boys will know this. "Oh, you had physio back in 2019 because you hurt your neck." "Yeah, I'm a prop." Well, that's pre-existing. That, to me, you're not doing all you can for the players. It looks to me that we've done a job. We've got you a career-ending insurance, but there's a very strong chance that you're not going to get it.
I want to pick up on what Neil's saying. I mean, the French system, but again, it is very comprehensive, but that's also built into the way that they socialize healthcare there, and and there is more of a safety net for people that either in Civvy Street lose their job, or within rugby. And I'm curious, Neil, how long did you stay in on Aix after the injury in November 2014?
I think it's like €10,000 a month or something like that. You qualify for the charge. I think you can still get it, but it's not. I think the maximum amount was €6,000, and you can claim that. It's 2 years, and that's all legal. It's all through the government. It's all done. As long as you're staying in the country, there's no problem. Now, if we said Okay, so just use that as an example. So to answer your question, I stayed for a year. We bought the business, bought the golf course and things. We thought it was the right time to go back. So we were there probably a year on this March. So to then implement that, stay in the Premiership or in the Championship, because you get it in the Pro Division as well. And so if you were to retire, say you're playing for the Chiefs now, you know that you're going to have 2 years on it, even if it was a couple of grand a month to help pay their mortgage or anything. Imagine what that would do for the system, for the boys. That level of security, knowing that they're always, when they retire, they've got another 2 years that they can sort themselves out, they can find themselves a job, or they can build a business that they want to do. I just think for me, that is where there was such a big difference between the French and the English.
Can I just ask a real direct question on that then, Neil? So, do you think one or two, right, that perhaps rugby clubs should be honest about the rules of the game that you're playing, which is basically you play rugby, it's a team game, loyalty to the team and all that. But if you're not good enough, chances are you're going to be out. If you get injured, you're going to be out. And when you finish playing, that's it. You've earned enough money. And they should be honest about it, or they should just say, look, we are actually going to invest in the players and come up with a proper structure to look after past players, because me and Fitzy said those past players are the ambassadors of the club, and that's why we feel that they should perhaps look after them.
When the club, they paid for all my therapy, saved my life. That was in the funds that Tony Rob and the club had actually, they've done that. And I know they've done it now for a couple of boys, a couple of lads needed surgery that are retired. They're doing their bit. But I do believe the way that the structure is and the financial crisis in the whole league, these clubs, they're trying to cover their debt at the moment. They're not going to turn around and go, well, we're not going to give you an extra 10 grand a month for a player. It's just not going to happen, because where's it going to come from? And at the end of the day, people could be watching this or listening to this or whatever and go, well, you're the dickhead. You're the one that signed up to be a rugby player. Yeah, you know what? I did. Maybe it's my fault. Yeah, I do believe when it comes to the head thing, labral repairs, broken neck, ACLs, I knew that could happen. That was on me. And I don't mind that. But I do believe there was not enough aftercare for the players.
Should that be the RFU though? The RFU,
I think so. I think
rather than the clubs.
World Rugby, and obviously with the brain stuff as well, there's questions they need to answer. How many more people are going to go through this? I love the game. I love the game. I'm so grateful for everything it's given. But I think I highlighted it in that book. I didn't even realise. Ironically, my mate I was playing with out in France, Swanee Tonga, I playing against Saints. I didn't even notice it was in the book. And I dived at his knee, knocked myself out. I played 35 minutes on autopilot. Went in at half. I remember looking up, and in the bottom of Franklin's Gardens, you got the red clock. I was like, well, yeah, where's that gone? Went in at half time. Did my review on the Monday. I was absolutely exhausted. Still trained and everything else. Played left for the following weekend. And Rob, we're doing our reviews. I hit my scrums, hit my line outs, and basically I was all over the show. And he was like, Corky, what the hell are you doing here? I ain't got a clue. I've got other games where I've got 20 stitches in the front of my head, 26 on the back there where I got kicked. Wrap up, straight back on, play following week. I'm saying they should have had, if they had these protocols in place that they've got now, this would happen.
So that case, obviously you're one of the players. I don't know if you can talk about the case with early onset dementia, and you're one of the players. I don't know how much.
I'm on the lawsuit, and it was one of those for me. I was doing better. I was better than myself. Take a lot of other stuff now, which I'm doing okay. I have good days and bad days, and the bad days are bad. When you hear some of the stories, and it's 97% of I think the top 90 odd players in it all had a divorce due to behaviour change. I mean, that was a tough one. Having to then speak to my ex-wife about it. With the number one neurologist in the world, and she just happened to mention. They said, when when did you notice the change? I lost and get back. I have a clue. And yeah, I was not behaving properly. Yeah, everybody just put it down to finishing the career, can't find a path, doesn't know what he's doing, just hitting drink. Whereas it actually turned out I've got a pretty serious problem.
When did your wife see the change, Neil, and when was that diagnosed?
I think it must have been a couple of years later. Yeah, it must have been. I'd gone through all my crap. Yeah, maybe 3-4 years down the line.
Yeah, and obviously we don't want you to talk too much about that because all of this is ongoing at the moment. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have too much to do with it, so that's what the Lord is.
So let's go. I mean, let's go on. I mean, let's talk about your golf club now. And
Yeah.
has that helped you?
It has and it hasn't. It probably downright nearly killed me. I mean,
It's really
coming
good,
back from
by the way.
yeah, my brother's got the restaurant. It's called the Will Dream, and mine's Will Dream Holidays in Leicester. So my brother's got a restaurant on site, and then I've got a par 3 golf course, adventure football golf, rugby golf, and then sticks, 2-bed wooden lodges, hot tubs, and then a bit 4-bed bungalow, bit of holiday accommodation. Good view. But now's the exciting part. I've got planning to build the first ever indoor top tracer four-side driving range in the world.
Wow.
So I'm doing a big land, got another call after this at 4:00, but it's doing a big infield deal, creating a 300-yard driving range for 10 to 15 outdoor bays, and then you've got an indoor top tracer foresight where they've done a collaboration. You've got an indoor driving range and then a big sports bar as well.
Sounds great.
What rules of sport? Yeah, what rules of sport do you bring into your business life, Neil?
The rules is that they are what they are. Everyone's entitled to what they're entitled to. But for me to be able to hang on to that business was some work. And I was going through my diagnosis at the time. So the divorce was pretty brutal. And then I got out of that and then went through COVID. Nearly lost it. And mentally, I was not good. And I was trying to build this. It was like hating feelings. I was in so much pain. And there was times where that was the thing I couldn't cope. And then that's when I took my ass down to my local fishing village, Portfladen. Yeah, I just walked up to the top, flipped a coin. Fortunately, it wasn't the time. And then just turned around and went back. There's been a few people going, how the hell are you doing this? And I just not very good at walking away. And that is this business has potentially been the biggest fight of my life, other than this thing up here. So yeah, it was something I wasn't prepared to walk away from. And so once I started getting into a rhythm with it, the accommodation is looking good, the bills are getting covered. It was like, right, you're in Cornwall, the weather's shit 8 months of the year, what can we do? And it was like, we need an indoor facility. And then it's just escalated into what it is now. And hopefully we've done a lot, I've pretty much done a lot of donkey work already. And we're hopefully really looking to get the frame stuff going at the end of the month.
Do you ever, like, when you've got like a decision you've got to make, do you ever take your experience in sport to making those decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the interesting thing for me is I just go, sod it, I'm going for it. I tend to just run it as hard as I can. And I suppose my therapist actually said this. She said, you are very much 0 or 100. It's all or nothing. You're either a millionaire or you're going to be bankrupt. There's no in between. Success, failure. I'd say that's the way it's always been. I suppose that's probably the biggest thing I could say or relate it to. It was like, well, if I'm going to go, I'm going to run it as hard as I can.
No one else is going to do it for you other than you.
And that was probably the best piece of advice I ever got. If you're going to do it yourself.
Yeah. But that then takes you back to being back in Launceston in 2007.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, these are the things you can talk about. You learn from experience. That's why, in a way. Yeah, you remember those days.
Yeah,
You remember those crappy days where...
Yeah, and then they shape something like 18 years down the line, which is what you're doing with the golf course. And they give you like resilience when you got a COVID period where, things are going under generally across the board. So
it was crazy. I got no support whatsoever because it was two different. I had accommodation, but you got old Billy Bob down the road and turned his fucking garage into an annex and got 25 grand. I've got 8 units and I got nothing.
But it's back to the wall. I mean, you got through it, and fair play. The pictures
Yeah.
I've seen, it's amazing. So well
It's
done.
getting there. I mean, yeah, no, thank you. I mean, it's getting there, and I've predominantly, I've got, my manager on site. That's great, but it's predominantly me. I've built the booking. Like, obviously, I've got people that help me, but I've got a booking system, marketing, and all of this. What people don't understand is the situation I'm in. That's in Cornwall. I'm sat in my house in Exeter because I have to be here 50-50 for my kids.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, a lot. So, I was going to move into the quick fire, 5 quick questions, Neil. I don't know if you got anything to finish with, Fitzy, or yourself before I go into the quick fire.
No, it's such a fascinating story, Neil. But let's do the get into the quick fire.
It is, yeah. Okay, so no overthinking, Neil. One word for Exeter Chiefs.
Yeah.
One word for Exeter Chiefs during the 2009-2000 campaign. I'll let you use 2 or 3 words if you want.
Highlighting my career.
Good answer.
I think just an amazing year.
Yeah, it's probably a highlight as well, Neil.
Yeah, it's got to be. The way it was and how it led on, and for me to get. I mean, it's always nice when you hear Rob and everyone goes, "Oh, the Heineken Cup was the best day of the club's history." When no, it's those boys that night there at the Memorial, and then the first game at Gloucester. We had a special team, and it was it was great to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think Rob built that culture from an early day, even when he made
absolutely
your day.
Culture is probably the best word.
Yeah, and the best front row you've ever packed down with, and the one you least liked scrummaging against. Probably know the answer to the first one.
Hobbo type, which is really difficult for me because I had a Hawani Tui, who was my tight head, and we went through a lot. And Chris Budgeon.
Yeah.
Because then I played with Sawani Tongaweer over in France, and then Brett Sturgis. He was like, our front row was Brett, me, Hawani. But I suppose if I had to go, I'd have to go Brett, me, and I'd have to put Hobbo in there.
You have to, yeah. Have to.
Yeah.
And who was the hooker you least liked playing against?
I think the harder it was, the more I actually liked it, if that's quite sadistic in a way. And we were like, who the hell are you on about? There's a guy up at Coventry.
I know exactly who it is. You're talking about Dave Addleton.
It may be
Dave Addleton. I've roomed with a guy once on a tour in France, and I was 18 years old in the same room as him. And he was a very difficult customer.
Well, do you know what the interesting thing is? It would be an easy thing for me to go John Smith, or I could go through some of the best names in the world.
Yeah.
No, it was this guy. Fucking beat the shit out of me.
He was tough. There was no mercy with him. I think he's still involved with Coventry, or he was coaching them. And
I remember Zinzan Brook was playing at 8, and he was kicking the drop goals.
Yeah, he was tough, and they had another guy who was quite awkward at Coventry, who sadly passed away. A guy called Trevor Revan. Remember him? Him and Dave Addleton.
That might have been him.
Yeah,
that name rings the bell. Either way, one of them from Coventry filled me in.
I think all of them did.
I definitely learned that. I learned my trade that year. I tell you.
Yeah, but Dave Addleton.
Tom Young's as strong as an ox. Closest friends. Some of the best battles I've had have been in the front row. But yeah, I don't know. I suppose you just have to go back to those horrible dark days where the cameras are off. And because the game's just a completely different game now, and you can scrum and you can have a chat in there. You win your ball, I'll win mine.
It's a different level of toughness now. Like like the old days playing Rotherham away and stuff like that.
That's what I mean. I mean, there was Platts actually. He put it in Independent, and he was doing like his highlight of the season, and it's something to do with Nick Bendon, and he said Clark's bleeding nose, and you get down in, and he's obviously going through all the players' description, and he was like good friend, super abrasive hooker, ex-teammate, and Danny Grewcock, everyone, that's what Miller. There's not many men I've ever backed down from, and I have to quite cowardly admit, when we were training in Loughborough, yeah, he grabbed me and looked at me, and I don't think I've ever shit myself so much in my life. But yeah, so he knew how to wind me up, and he sent one through, and we're live on ESPN. Sent one through, smacked me in the face. My nose is like that. I've come up, and then I've smacked Lee straight in the face. And he's gone, Clarky, what the fuck? And I went, I had to hit someone. You see Flats, and you can see it at half time. You see Gruey running off, like laughing. And I'm trying to chase after him, like down the dugout.
What'd you do if he stopped, Neil?
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
Pressure
I'd like
moment.
to think that I was in the zone, but no, I probably would have backed down and gone, thanks for it.
So the hardest pre-match moment of your career, the walkout, a specific injury return, or the first game back in France?
First game back in France was Toulon at home, and we beat them. And that was one hell of an experience, because that was the year where they were the boys, like Wilco, Gitto, and all of that. That one was special. I always say this as well, actually, and it's ironic we're talking about French. I don't know why. Played at Twickenham, played at some of the best stadiums all over. For me, there was a moment I remember. I remember looking around in the huddle, and we were playing Claremont in the Heineken Cup with the Chiefs. I think we got dicked by about 50 points. But for me, it was. I remember we were in the huddle, and as you know, in France, they'll just let you wait a little bit. But at the Stade Michelin, and it was rocking. You don't have a lot of time to take much in. It's like on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And they were really dragging this out. I just remember just sort of like looking around, like in the huddle with the boys, like, the great group that we were with. That was probably one of the reasons when I looked around there and went, this is why I play fucking rugby. And so, yeah, we lost. But for me, it would definitely be that.
Okay, and one thing you'd say to your 18-year-old self when you made you're running out on the county ground in October 1999, knowing what you know now, duck, so you don't get your 6 stitches. Yeah?
Don't wear a scrum cap.
Okay. And Cornwall, Exeter, or Aix, where's the best pint and who you having it with?
Oh, well,
that's a hard
I'm
one,
a large
really.
drinker, so yeah, that is a toughie. It's got to be the Chiefs. Yeah, I'd just have a pint of lager with the Chiefs.
And who you having a pint with?
Hobbo.
Okay, great stuff.
Neil, thank you so much.
So,
for the detail, for the honesty, and for being so generous with the difficult chapters you've been through, and with the good ones as well. You've had a fabulous career, lived across Exeter, Bristol, Bath, Aix, 70 years in the front row, and a story that most people hearing this won't have heard told this way before. We're incredibly grateful you came on and told it in the manner you did. It was very real and very inspiring as well. Thank you for joining us on The Business End. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you.
For having me, boys.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you.